A simple coffee run turns into a nightmare when a black woman finds herself handcuffed, humiliated, and thrown into the back of a police car without a single explanation. But when she makes one phone call, the officers quickly realize they've just made the biggest mistake of their careers. What happens when the truth comes out? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from today. Dawn Mitchell adjusted the strap of her leather handbag as she stepped through the doors of Brew and Bean, her go-to coffee shop in downtown Chicago. It was going to be a long day ahead: meetings, case reviews, and a late-night prep session for her firm's upcoming civil rights lawsuit against the city. But right now, all she wanted was a caramel macchiato. Inside, the place was packed, professionals grabbing their morning caffeine fix before heading to work. Dawn glanced at her watch. 7:43 a.m. If the barista was quick, she'd be back in her car by 7:50, just in time to beat the worst of rush hour. She stepped forward, already mentally flipping through her to-do list when, "Hey, stop her." For a split second, Dawn thought they weren't talking to her. But when she turned, her breath hitched. Two uniformed officers were storming toward her, hands on their belts, their expressions hard. Her pulse spiked. "Me?" she asked, confused. "Hands where we can see them." The command came sharp and loud from the taller officer, a white man with a buzz cut. The entire cafe fell silent. Dawn frowned, instinctively raising her hands, but keeping her voice calm. "What is going on?" The second officer, a stockier man with a reddish beard, grabbed her wrist roughly. "You match the description of a suspect we're looking for. You need to come with us." The words hit her like a slap. A suspect. She yanked her arm back, but the officer tightened his grip. "I just walked in here to get coffee." The buzz-cut officer didn't hesitate. He reached for his handcuffs. "Ma'am, don't make this difficult." Dawn's stomach clenched as every eye in the cafe focused on her. Whispers swirled. Some people were already holding up their phones, recording. "You're making a mistake," she said firmly. "I'm a lawyer. I know my rights." "What's the charge?" "You fit the description of a suspect involved in a robbery this morning," the bearded officer stated flatly. Dawn's brows shot up. "A robbery? Are you serious? I've been at home getting ready for work for the past 2 hours." The buzz-cut officer exhaled, as if trying to be patient. "We'll figure all that out at the station, ma'am." Cold steel snapped around her wrists. Dawn felt her breath come sharp, fast. Everywhere she looked, people stared. Some in shock, others avoiding eye contact, and a few still recording. "Someone call my brother," she said through clenched teeth. The bearded officer scoffed. "Your brother can meet you downtown." Heat rose behind Dawn's eyes, but she refused to let it show. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of them. As they pushed her toward the door, a young black woman near the register, probably no older than 20, spoke up. "This is wrong." Her hands trembled as she held up her phone. "She didn't do anything. She just got here." "Stay out of this," the officer snapped. Dawn lifted her chin. "You should listen to her." They didn't. Instead, they dragged her into the morning air toward a waiting squad car. Dawn's jaw tightened. "Do you even know who I am?" Her voice cold as ice. The bearded officer let out a smirk. "Yeah, a suspect." Dawn shook her head, keeping herself calm. "No. I'm Dawn Mitchell, and my brother is U.S. Attorney General Malcolm Mitchell." For the first time, that smirk faltered. The buzz-cut officer hesitated. "That's supposed to mean something to us?" A slow, humorless smile tugged at Dawn's lips. "Oh, it means you just made the biggest mistake of your career." And as their expressions shifted from confidence to uncertainty, Dawn exhaled. They had no idea what was coming. "Muttered who my brother is," Dawn said, her voice even, controlled. "And what that means for both of you." Reynolds turned slightly in his seat, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Oh yeah? You think we're supposed to be scared 'cause your brother's some government suit?" Dawn tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Not just any suit. The United States Attorney General. You know, the top prosecutor in the country? The one with direct access to the DOJ, the FBI, and every major legal authority in the nation." A split second of silence filled the car. Daniels cleared his throat. Bull. Dawn smiled. Call him. Find out. Reynolds' smirk faded. Daniels shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Or, Dawn continued smoothly, you could keep driving. Pretend this isn't about to become national news. Pretend my brother won't be on every network by noon, demanding your badges. Pretend the mayor and the chief of police won't be scrambling to clean up the mess you just made before it spirals out of control. The air in the car grew thick. Daniels exhaled sharply, shaking his head. She's bluffing. Dawn sat back, watching them, waiting. Seconds passed, and then Reynolds picked up the radio. Dispatch, this is Officer Reynolds. We're bringing in a suspect, Don Mitchell. Can you run a background check? Static crackled. Then, copy that. Running now. Dawn turned her gaze to the window, watching the city blur past. She wasn't nervous. She knew exactly what was coming next. A few minutes later, the dispatcher's voice returned. But this time, it sounded different, hesitant. Officer Reynolds? Are you sure about this arrest? Reynolds frowned. What kind of question is that? A pause. Then, we just pulled up her records. She's an attorney and you're gonna want to check this twice. Her emergency contact? Malcolm Mitchell, the U.S. Attorney General. Daniels cursed under his breath. Reynolds' grip on the steering wheel tightened. Dawn's smile didn't waver. Told you. Reynolds grabbed the radio again. Dispatch, confirm her address. She claims she was home this morning. If that's true, she couldn't have. Already checked. Dispatch interrupted. Her home security footage confirms she was inside her residence at the time of the reported robbery. You've got the wrong person. Daniels muttered something under his breath. Reynolds' jaw clenched. What do you want us to do? A long pause. Then, stand by. The squad car slowed as they reached a red light. The weight of their mistake settled between them. The silence? Suffocating. Almost satisfying. Almost. You could uncuff me now, Dawn suggested, her voice cool. Reynolds hesitated, fingers twitching near his belt. Daniels glanced at him. What do we do, man? Reynolds swallowed, then let out a sharp breath. Without another word, he pulled the car over to the side of the road, turned in his seat. Don't make this worse for yourself, Dawn warned. Reynolds shot her a glare, but didn't argue. He reached back, pulled out the key, and unlocked the cuffs. As soon as the metal clicked open, Dawn rolled her wrists, the sharp sting of pain still fresh from how tightly they had been secured. Daniels sighed. Look, Dawn held up a hand. Save it. She rubbed her wrists before reaching into her bag and pulling out her phone. You've done enough already. Reynolds' jaw tensed. It was a mistake. Dawn let out a humorless laugh. A mistake, she scoffed. A mistake is forgetting to set your alarm. This was negligence. Profiling. False arrest. Harassment. Take your pick. Daniels shifted uncomfortably. Reynolds looked away. What are you gonna do? He muttered. Dawn didn't answer. She tapped her phone screen, dialed a number, held it to her ear, locking eyes with them as it rang. It took exactly 2 seconds. Malcolm Mitchell speaking. Dawn's expression didn't change. Malcolm, you're going to want to hear this. The squad car felt like it had lost all its air. Daniels shifted again, beads of sweat forming on his temple. Reynolds closed his eyes briefly, then muttered under his breath. We're so screwed. Dawn let the moment linger. Then, yeah, you are. The tension in the car? Suffocating. Officer Reynolds and Officer Daniels sat frozen, trapped in the weight of an irreversible mistake.